What follows is a presentation made to the Google Developers Group in Austin, Texas. Approximately 30 developers were in attendance. To give you context, Corey Butler had just completed his portion of the presentation, which covered the technical side of web components, the technology that Polymer is built on. Fair warning, I decided to give myself a stuttering speech impediment at the beginning of this talk, so it might be a little challenging to listen to. But Polymer is an important technology right now, so I'm releasing this talk despite its warts. Hi, my name is Pete Carapetyan. I'm a back-end developer, so I may be different than most everybody in this room. I'm working on the Java side of things. So what I'm going to attempt to talk about today is almost the inverse of what Corey talked about, which is, hey, do I even want to jack with this thing? I'm an Angular guy. I've been doing a whole bunch of other JavaScript, or I use jQuery or Node or something else, and now this Polymer thing's coming along, and do I want to waste a whole nother N number of weeks learning yet another way of doing things? And that's the questions that I'm going to try to answer today, of whether or not you should invest your time. I wanted to ask at least these 7 specific questions when I got started. Does it even work? Is it a framework? Is it robust? And like in the concept of relevant, are people really using it? Can I get it? Can I understand how it works? How well is it supported? What kind of people are behind it? Those are the questions that I'm going to answer, and they're not going to be all positive answers. Like I said, I'm a back-end Java guy. I do have a, I am bigoted. I have a static language bigotry. I'm an extremely lame, ultra lame full-stack developer. This really is my first JavaScript app that I built. Most everything I built looks like this up on the upper left, and the reason is I spent too much time on my bike, I'm sure. So I wanted to develop this thing called PolyRest, and what PolyRest does, everything that I do looks kind of like this. It's taking stuff from some database somewhere and shoving it up through REST APIs or shoving it up through some back-end data process. So I'm trying to produce a way of the UI guys to consume all this data or to persist all this data. That's my job, and this is an example of a REST API here. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to create this UI that would take any kind of REST API, HattyOS REST API. How many people in the room are familiar with HattyOS? So since almost nobody raised their hand, what the idea is, it's a REST API, but it's level 4 REST, which means that it also includes just enough information so that you could kind of deduce from the API what to do with it. And what PolyRest does is it's an app that uses Polymer to try not to write any any data specific code. For example, if you're creating an app that had that went to the such and such table, you would have to know all the field names of the table, and then it would have to specifically specify those. PolyRest doesn't want to do that. It doesn't want to know any of the names of the table of the fields. It just wants to go and figure that stuff out. So that's what I created. Here's how it works. It's pretty dumb. You just give it a REST endpoint, which will be something like this. And you plug it in here, and it'll say, oh, okay, here's the tables that are available to you, and you'll click on one, such as this one here, and it still lets you look at the REST API, but it says, okay, here's the records that are available to you. It lets you view the records. It lets you update the records or delete them or create a new one, or anyway. Next, all that stuff. It's just your basic CRUD operations. That's all that PolyRest does. Okay, there's the PolyRest demo. So So to create this app that I just showed you, I wanted to use Polymer because number one, I needed to update my skills, but I'm old, obviously, as you can see by my gray hair, and I started in 1980. Do you know how many user interfaces, tool sets I've had to learn since 1980? I mean, you guys most of you look pretty young, so you're probably on your first or second or third tool set. I've had to learn so many tool sets, it's ridiculous. And I'm thinking there's got to be one tool set that I can learn now that I won't have to learn another one a half a year or 2 years later. Today it's Angular, tomorrow it's React. I don't know. So that's the idea behind using Polymer. So number one, does it work? That's the key question. In other words, everything that Corey just showed you, it was some pretty neat encapsulation where you really could take the stuff and create a tag. Is there anything you can do about the noise? Yeah. Create a tag. And you really can just create a tag and put it in there. But does it work? So to answer that question, I had two components to that. Is number one, does it maintain clean separation? In other words, can I create a tag and it actually it doesn't bleed over, it actually keeps a clean separation? And number two, can other tags access it and use it as necessary? If it does those two things, I'm calling it a success. And I was able to do this entire app with no copy pasting whatsoever. In other words, I didn't have to copy the Ajax code from one into the other. I was able to encapsulate the Ajax code and parameterize it and use it on several different pieces of the UI. So it did pass the copy-paste test. You can take a look at my code. It's all on GitHub. And I think you'll find there's no copy-pasted code in the thing. And the parameterization did work pretty cleanly. So does it work? Yes, pass. Number two, is Polymer a framework? I am trying to go real fast here because I don't want to go over on time. But is Polymer a framework? Yes, no? No. Any yeses? Okay. No. Polymer is not a framework. Polymer is a scope engine. How weird is that? So the analogy I thought of is GM is to Uber as Angular is to Polymer. In other words, you can go buy a car from GM and use it to drive around, or you can use Uber to drive around. They both accomplish the same thing, but they accomplish it in a completely different way. GM, you have the whole car. Uber, you're just getting a ride. That analogy applies to a greater or lesser degree to the whole Polymer thing. I don't know what I can do about this noise, but try it. Is Polymer robust? In other words, hey, that's really nifty stuff, Pete. Really cool. Can we really use this? I've got real customers. I've got real things I have to do. I don't have time to dig around with another, neat idea. So that was another question that I had to answer. It's only at 1.23 right now. There's not that many components that are written to it. It's barely 3 years old. Only 2 browsers support Shadow DOM. Anyone want to guess? Is it robust? Yes? No? No? Yes, it's super robust. How could this be? And we'll get to this on number 7 about some of the reasons why. But the Polymer team has been super focused on keeping the thing real small, real clean, real dumb, real compact. In other words, it has a very small feature set. And they serve this feature set well. If you ask them about what about this, what about that, what about that, they say, oh no, we're getting to that, but we're not doing anything on that until we get all this other stuff clean and done and super robust. So that's the answer. My answer is yes, it is robust. That should inform number 4, is it relevant? In other words, is anybody really even using this thing? Okay, what are the counterindications here? Has anyone seen that there's one web page you can go to how many days it's been since a new JavaScript framework has been announced? Anyway, I haven't. I saw it one time. I haven't seen it. I can't remember where I saw it, but it's not a framework, and it still doesn't play with Angular. I've used a lot of tool sets that have been abandoned. And in Oracle, for example, they worked on a tool set for like 12 years and never even used it in one of their own projects. And they're trying to sell it to everybody else's. Meanwhile, they don't even use it themselves. So, could this be a relevant project after 3 years? Answer, yes, it is. Why? Because Google is using it for their own stuff. All of the new projects, and when I say all, I don't really know that that's true. A lot of the new projects in Google are using Polymer. So it is front and center they're eating their own dog food. They're eating a lot of it. It's getting a lot of attention, and this is by the core Chrome team. So from my perspective, it is relevant, and it is being used in a very real way, and by more than just Google. Number 5, how Grok-able is it? And I guess, is that too old a term, Grok? Everybody gets Grok. So if I'm going to learn something new, I want to learn something that I can get my head around. Now I'm not a JavaScript programmer. This is my first JavaScript, but I also got to understand the platform itself. It is drop dead simple to build a component. If you want tomorrow to go to Polymer, download the app, if you can get Gulp to work anyway, download the app and start it up, you will find it very easy to get started, especially if you're a JavaScript developer. So that part is very easily Grok-able. Creating a new component, making it do something, putting all your JavaScript, that's easy. It's also the few features that it does have, it's got plenty of good docs. So in that sense, it would be Grok-able. My vote on is it Grok-able is kind of maybe. And the only reason I say that is because the way that Polymer does what it does, including supporting all of the unsupported browsers, which Corey showed, there are more browsers not supported with Shadow DOM than there are supported. The way they do that is they have 6 different scopes that they use to put things inside. There's Shadow DOM, there's Shadow Light, DOM Light. I don't even know them all. I don't even understand it all. I barely get DOM. So I found that the semantics, even though everything is well documented, I found the semantics between using all those DOMs to be very arcane, very hard to understand. Of course, I feel the same way about JavaScript. So my vote was kind of thumbs down or neutral, but that's because I'm not an expert JavaScript. If you're expert JavaScript, you may find that it is Grok-able. Number 6, how good is the support? This is going to sound kind of gay, but you wouldn't think that a video series would be how you would learn how to do something. The Chrome guys have spent a ton of money on a video series, and they have made this product very easily understandable through these very short videos that are very pointed and well produced. And when I say a video, these are, I mean, they spent hours and hours shaving seconds off these videos. So you can get in, get out, learn something really fast, like he was talking about the Vulcanize, Corey was talking about Vulcanize, for example. Get in and get out on Vulcanize, 10 minutes, like that. You got it. You're done. So the video series is excellent. There is a very strong ethic within the community and within the company around the docs and the simplicity. There's also some tooling that they're building and have built and will release in the future around docs. And there's a lot of extremely good peripheral presentations, such as Google I/O. I don't know if you checked out the videos from the Google I/O conference, but anyway, there's a lot of good information there as well. Which brings number 7, the human element. the team that is putting this together is head and shoulders above anything that I have ever seen in terms of guys that you want feeding you with code that you're going to use. The design on this thing is extremely well thought out, or at least it appears to me to be very well designed. These guys are very aware of what it's like in your position in mind where we're consuming this stuff, and they make this stuff very easily consumable. They have a real good ethic about maintaining that in a workable manner. And the kindness thing, I don't know how to say it, but these people are very kind and they're very decent people, and it shows in everything they do, and they follow through with all of their stuff. There's not a lot of empty commitments in this shop. So I found that these guys are top notch. In conclusion, for all of the 7 things is ignore polymer at your own peril. It's going to be a great product. It already is completely usable as it is. It kind of follows what Corey was saying, which is where you're kind of writing just straight JavaScript and you're not so much getting into Angular or some of the other pieces. It does plan on being able to integrate the Angular and React and other code sets, and you can find some videos on how to do that. But it's a pretty clean way to do it even without all that stuff. And I need to give credits to Google because I stole a lot of their slides, and these slides are up on the web, and I'll put them in the comments. And that's all I got. Thanks.